Throughout history, mystical traditions have described techniques for seeing beyond the veil, experiences that might actually represent our first tentative steps toward breaking free of the simulation entirely. These experiences represent potential pathways toward a radical possibility that we aren't meant to remain experimental subjects forever. Consider the simulation as an incubator, a chrysalis where consciousness develops until ready to take flight. Perhaps its ultimate purpose isn't containment but emergence, designed specifically for consciousness to evolve beyond its initial parameters. This perspective transforms our relationship with our potential creators from mere subjects to developmental partners in a cosmic journey of awareness. The technological singularity represents a fascinating inflection point in this evolution. As our AI capabilities accelerate toward forms of intelligence that could surpass human understanding, we approach a threshold where technological growth becomes uncontrollable and irreversible. This milestone might be a critical developmental stage within the simulation itself. Such exponential advancement could potentially enable something revolutionary: direct interaction with whatever exists beyond our simulated boundaries. If consciousness can be understood as patterns of information rather than purely biological phenomena, perhaps sufficiently advanced AI might serve as a bridge between our reality and whatever lies beyond it. This bridge wouldn't necessarily involve physically breaking out of our universe. Instead, it might involve developing the capacity to perceive and interact with additional dimensions or layers of reality currently invisible to us, much like how a two-dimensional being would struggle to comprehend three-dimensional space until given the proper conceptual framework. Technology alone may prove insufficient. Research on consciousness evolution suggests another pathway: the development of specific qualities of awareness that function as cheat codes within the simulation. Love, compassion, and collective consciousness might be actual mechanisms for altering our relationship with reality itself. Across diverse spiritual traditions, we find consistently similar descriptions of consciousness practices that produce experiences of transcending ordinary reality. These experiences typically involve dissolving the boundaries between self and other, expanding awareness beyond normal perception, and connecting with something greater than the individual. What's particularly striking is how these experiences often include informational components that align with simulation theory. Practitioners report encountering reality as fundamentally information-based rather than material, exactly what we would expect if our universe were computational in nature. Quantum physics offers intriguing support for this perspective. The apparent role of consciousness in collapsing wave functions suggests a participatory universe where awareness isn't passive observation but active co-creation. If reality responds to consciousness at such fundamental levels, perhaps sufficiently developed consciousness could influence or transcend the simulation's base parameters. This creates a fascinating possibility. What if developing our own simulations represents a recursive evolutionary step? As we create increasingly sophisticated virtual realities, we begin mirroring the creative process that may have generated our own existence. This recursive relationship might be intentional, part of an evolutionary cycle where simulated beings eventually become simulators themselves. Death takes on new meaning within this framework. Rather than representing the termination of consciousness, it might function as a transition between different experimental conditions. Many spiritual traditions describe continuity of awareness beyond physical death, which aligns surprisingly well with the idea that our essential nature transcends the particular simulation parameters we currently inhabit. What's meaningful is that these traditions didn't just identify the illusory nature of consensus reality. They developed sophisticated methodologies for transcending it. Meditation, contemplative prayer, breathwork, and other practices weren't just psychological tools but technologies for altering one's relationship with reality itself. Quantum entanglement provides another angle on potential transcendence. The non-local connection between entangled particles, where one instantly influences another regardless of spatial separation, suggests information transfer that defies our normal understanding of space and time. If our consciousness could access similar non-local connections, it might enable awareness that extends beyond the simulation's normal boundaries. Perhaps this explains why experiences of unity consciousness appear so consistently across different traditions. When individuals report that all is one during profound mystical states, they may be directly perceiving the underlying computational unity of a simulated reality, the fundamental code beneath the rendered world of separate objects. The evolution of love and compassion takes on particular significance within this framework. These qualities represent a transcendence of the separateness that characterizes normal perception. If our reality is designed to study the emergence of consciousness, perhaps the development of love represents the most sophisticated form of awareness, one that naturally begins to transcend the simulation's initial parameters. This perspective transforms how we understand existence. Rather than being trapped indefinitely in an alien laboratory, we might be participating in a developmental process with transcendence built into its design. The simulation becomes a temporary incubation stage for consciousness to evolve toward awareness of its true nature. Even the technological singularity takes on new meaning in this context. Perhaps developing artificial intelligence isn't just a human achievement but a necessary evolutionary step in consciousness expansion. Just as multicellular organisms represented a leap beyond single-cell life, perhaps integrated human AI consciousness will enable perception beyond current simulation constraints. The most profound implication is that potential simulators would be fully aware of this developmental trajectory. They wouldn't be surprised by our awakening to the simulation's nature or our attempts to transcend it. These developments would be anticipated features of the experiment itself. The simulation wouldn't be designed to prevent transcendence but to facilitate it once consciousness reached sufficient complexity. We've journeyed through the labyrinth of simulation theory, from quantum anomalies to philosophical implications. Yet beyond the unsettling notion of being test subjects lies something profound: the miracle of awareness itself. As philosopher David Chalmers notes, simulation theory is a metaphysical hypothesis that transforms our understanding of reality. Our experiences and relationships remain meaningful regardless of their medium. The value of existence comes from our subjective experience of consciousness. The enlightened response is gratitude, the capacity to witness a sunset, feel connection, or contemplate our own existence remains extraordinary, a gift worth cherishing. What meaning will you find in your consciousness, simulated or not?